warning. This show features dark subjects which may be triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Chaos Jar. I'm the loud and obnoxious one, J. West Secord. Hey. Over here is our host and big bag of facts, Bad Ben.
Hey.
And as always, we're joined by a racial stereotype.
It's not a racial stereotype, it's Julio! Not racial, it's Julio. Hello, Julio's here.
This is Julio.
Julio.
Did you just get him, like, at a corner of a street?
Julio got Ben! That's how it works! Julio brought Ben! Not the other way around.
Just a quick thing. On YouTube, there are video clips called Words with Julio that I recorded before this podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Julio exists before the jar of darkness and thingies and whatnot.
No, that was our old thing. Yeah. We're Chaos Jar now.
Oh, sure now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
now
okay.
It's chaos.
Now, remember to rate, review, subscribe, like, comment, all the usual shit. And you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BAChaosJar. But you can also follow me on Twitter at I'm glad you asked _ Ask me questions, anything. I swear I will answer it. Just ask me. All right. We also can be followed on Facebook at...
Sorry.
Oh, no!
All right. We are going into an apocalypse. I'm sorry, folks. Give us a second.
Hold on. Once the game lands, we'll reboot.
Yeah, okay.
Julio had to face a game. Julio is apologizing.
Secord, please put in the reboot sound.
Yeah, reboot.
Julio fucking phone. Julio. Benji will download all the reboot things right now.
Okay.
Bob is best. Screw Megabyte. Bob is best.
Okay, bud. Okay.
Whoa.
I touched my board game.
I know.
He's too far away and has nice hair. All right, you can follow us on Facebook at Chaos Jar Podcast, which is also the name of our YouTube channel. So if you're friends who don't know where to get their podcasts at like iPodcast thing or Bandcamp or whatever, you can just send them to YouTube, and they will be like, "Hey, that's the podcast. I get to hear it." And we don't get money because we swear too much. But anyway, all that being said, it's in the show notes and more. Now, what's going in the jar today, Ben?
Did you talk about Patreon?
Patreon.com/chaosjar. You can go to that address if you definitely want to give us money. We can import Julio more often that way.
Julio is concerned. Is this the reasons why you send Julio to non-green card place? Is this the reasons why Julio has to stay in importation all the time?
Listen, it's a pandemic.
Yeah.
Julio has vaccine.
Don't worry. You're
has the card that's green that says he already poked 3 to 4 times.
You're mostly safe here
in the eye.
You are mostly safe here in Canatown, USA, in Middle Dakota. We have very different laws from the rest of the country.
Yes.
So go to patreon.com/chaosjar. Give us some money, get early access to our bonus episodes, or watch the episodes that are already there. Plus, you can become one of our executive producers where we say your name on the show. We like saying names.
Yeah.
Please tell us. Just please let us know your name.
So far, we've only had Ashley, who's been on the show.
Yeah. Like, I really want to say names. Like, so far, I only get to say, like, maybe 2 to 3 names an episode, and I'm not happy with that.
And 2 of them are ours.
That's my point! So, what's going in the jar today, Ben?
We're talking about D.B. Cooper.
All right, that's our show.
Yeah. All right. So, 1914 is around the time that we started to have air travel. We're aware of this from the First World War and so on.
Yeah,
However,
I knew about that.
It was in the 1950s that, we really started having airlines, like mass transit happening So, and about that time, that's also when hijacking planes began. And it's,
wow, it started right at the beginning.
Yeah. Because we're human beings and we're terrible. Like,
the Italians really wanted their, country back and, not be communists anymore.
He makes a good point.
Anyways, so, just to kind of like give us a little refresher, it's really hard to think about hijacking planes in this day and age, mainly because of 9/11. And those who don't know about 9/11, I don't know where you've been.
Really. Every year, I play Jenga with 2 towers, and someone has to throw airplanes, and you have to go through the process of making sure that you don't get caught by the airplanes while you're doing. I forgot. We're pretending we're in the States. I'm angry.
In Mother Russia, we love 9/11.
I don't realize why Russia was involved in this, but okay.
I didn't realize he was taking over for Token on being all the tokens.
All right. So, anyways, in April of 2018, a 41-year-old man with a history of mental illness that was aboard Air China Flight 1350 that was had to make an he forced an unscheduled landing in Zhengzhou because he tried to hijack the plane by taking hold of a flight attendant with a fountain pen. Well,
in his defense, those things are fucking sharp.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
That's how they get their ink. They use them to stab into squids in order to pull the ink out.
I don't think that's how that works.
It's science. Look it up.
Well, you always thought it was just blood of enemies. You just stab somebody and you start writing.
Yeah, and those enemies are squids.
Especially in China. So,
the inventors of calamari.
Obviously, 9/11, we'll talk a little bit about 9/11, but the Twin Towers being hit, which was a successful hijack, and then the Pentagon being hit, again, a successful hijack. The only one that was non-successful was the United 93, and that's only because when the hijacking happened, they revolted back.
And then it landed on the island.
Sure, let's go with that.
Knew it.
Knew it. So, if we go before that, for American flights mainly, in 1987, there was a hijacking that was attempted by Norwood Emanuel. He was trying to take Continental Airlines DC-9, but the captain, Mark Mayer, managed to quickly land at another international airport and basically then distracted Emanuel while the passengers and crew managed to get away. And then the FBI intervened. But that was quick thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn Kirktrip, who was 20 years old, he said that he had a bomb in a shoebox and tried to hijack a jet to Afghanistan on January 20th, 1983.
Fortunately, it turned out it was only a shoe.
Yeah, he managed...
Just one.
So
it had no soul.
It was around 4:30 that the flight that he was trying to hijack landed in Seattle, and the crew member and passengers managed to get off while the FBI managed to sneak on board and kind of get control of the situation. And there was no bomb found, so I think he was just bluffing. He was eventually convicted of extortion and kidnapping. So, there was also a kind of weird one where A man named Garrett Trapno was serving time at Merriam Federal Penitentiary for a plane hijacking that he had attempted on January 28th, 1972. So, on May 24th, Barbara Ann Oswald tried to hijack a plane, but failed as well, and this was in hopes of trying to get Garrett free. So, because that went so well, the same year, on December 21st, 1978, Robin Oswald, her daughter, tried to hijack TWA Flight 541 from Louisville to Kansas City, claiming she had 3 sticks of dynamite.
Is this just going to be a collection of people trying to hijack planes in order to save their previous family member, and that family member failing only to be caught and have the next family member try and save them the same way?
No, I wish, but D.B. Cooper's a far more interesting
You know
character.
Jose too? How do you know Cousin Jose?
We went to China together once.
Ah, yeah, he was saying something about being in near China or North Korea. Didn't know exactly where.
It's basically the same thing.
So, Barbara, when she tried to do the hijacking, she was shot dead, unfortunately. So, her daughter, when confronted, surrendered at the airport, and it was revealed that the dynamite was flares. So she didn't have any real weapons other than flares. So she ended up being convicted in the state of Illinois and sentenced. But she was underage, so she managed to kind of just get away with like a juvenile record instead. Which I find is kind of weird. If you're old enough to hijack a plane, I think you might be old enough for like adult prison.
Sylvia got away with it. She thought that she could, explode people with bricks covered in duct tape. Add copper wire to it. No one really knows until, they pulled it off of her and beat her to death nearly with it. But now you know!
Okay.
I feel like I only understood, 50% of that.
You'll learn. You'll understand Julio's later. Takes time.
Julio's later. You'll understand Julio's later.
So on November 10th, 1972, 3 hijackers actually threatened to crash South Airways Flight 49 into a nuclear research reactor near Knoxville, Tennessee, if they didn't receive $2 million. So the airline actually managed to cough up the money, but the flight continued with a few stops and a few delays all the way to Havana. And that's where they were convicted. That's where they were captured and put in jail. And it's actually really, really a thing. A lot of people try to hijack planes to go to other countries, but almost all the time it's to try and get to Cuba. I don't understand what that is, but
is it because Cuba is... Yeah, I got nothing.
They like the song. That's why.
but yeah, Havana. But all I can think to myself is they just keep showing up in Cuba with these planes, and Cuba's just where are we going to keep putting these planes? We're an island.
It's mostly because the flights are really, really cheap, and it's far easier to hijack cheap flights than it is very expensive ones. No one hijacks flights to Hawaii.
But these weren't flights going to Cuba. They were hijacked and going elsewhere, and then they were like, no, we're going to Cuba. And all I can imagine is some of these pilots being like, sure, Cuba, I only have half a tank of gas.
I like to think that, they get so many that they just turn them into housing.
Yeah.
And so there's just a whole bunch of airplane flights that are like, wow.
You think too small. Think airplane islands.
Airplane islands.
You just put 4 airplanes together, and then you build on the airplanes, and it's a perfect raft. Halfway swimming to Florida.
They just keep building this flights.
Wow. All I can think about is the fact that they build rafts to get over to, like, to get away from the country. Like, they just stole a bunch of airplanes together.
They learn from the Africans. They leave nothing behind. The whole entire plane is stripped bare, and they made their boat out of the airplanes that are sunk into the sea.
Jesus. So,
They don't have windows. They have windows from airplanes.
You know what would be a great idea? One of the airplanes that stay intact, they should just fly them really low. So that way the Air Force can't be like, oh, they're in our skies. So it's basically rafting.
So we'll talk about an even like more thorough case a little bit here. That's way not as interesting as tying airplanes together in Cuba, but
what is?
Yeah. We're going to talk about Raphael Minichiello for a second.
Do you know him?
No, not Minichiello. Michelangelo, though.
I love the Ninja Turtles.
So
his ceiling is so big.
I know.
Not enough blue, though.
So Minichiello came over from, moved to Seattle when he was a teenager after growing up in Melito, Irpano, Italy. And he had earned a Purple Heart as a Marine in Vietnam. So he came over and then went to Vietnam, which all I can think to myself is, what a shitty fucking way to live your life. Escape, Italy and be like, okay, I'm away from Italy. Things are kind of, unstable.
Congratulations, you're now an American citizen. Time to fight a war.
So, he was there when he got back. He returned to Camp Pendleton in April 1969, and then he was shorted $200 on his salary by that unit's paymaster, or so he thinks. It's really, really in a lot of source materials whether or not it actually was short or whether it wasn't.
My guess is, Julio's guess is, he bet on the wrong Vietnamese woman.
Oh, okay.
Julio, where are you from?
Julio's from many places. You learn of Julio later.
Okay, fair enough.
So we live right here, so there.
So, anyways, Minichiello was 19 years old.
70s show.
Don't die, Ben. We don't have time to revive you.
God.
We don't have enough money. Julio is not breathing in your mouth and resuscitating you.
So, Minichiello was 19 at the time. And he was really, really angry about this. So one night in May 1969, he decided that he was going to make things right. And he basically drank a whole whack of beers, broke into the camp, took $200 worth of material, like radios and wristwatches and stuff like that. Which, honestly, all I can think to myself is, you just broke into a military complex and stole their radios and wristwatches in 1969?
I just want to go back to the wristwatches. Were they did they have special display spots for their wristwatches? Okay, we're going into war. Take off your wristwatch, place them here. Good.
You forget that they were the pre-digital watches that were looked like the 1980 watches that were $12 now. They were $200 back then.
Fair enough, but where were they all, did they have what my point is, they're not on the person's possession. They're in a gathering of watches in a corner.
Was it like a lost and found box?
Julio's guess is someone went for shower, took off wristwatch, showered. Oh, I
would love if that, he stole a whole whack of radios and he's like, this isn't quite $200. Huh, that wristwatch.
Even though it says many wristwatch, it was actually just one really expensive wristwatch.
He saw the
It was
Swiss
two guys having a
flag
shower
on the watch. He obviously thought it was very expensive.
Hey, do you know what a gathering of watches is?
No.
It's a tick.
Are you sure? I always thought it was a talk.
No, that's what we're doing now.
I was gonna make the same joke. Julio's
getting respirator ready. One
This
for
is so
one.
much fun. But yeah, so he was court-martialed, and he was actually going to, like, it seemed like he was really going to be going into imprisonment for this. So he decided to go back to Italy. Like, so in Halloween 1969, so the same year, he took a bag with, and it had a disassembled M1 rifle and 250 pounds of ammunition, and he went on a bus from Los Angeles to Los Angeles International Airport, bought a ticket for TWA Flight 85 to San Francisco, got on board.
Wait, with the gun and the 200 pounds of ammunition?
Yep. He had the 250 bullets and a rifle.
This is the freedom country of the world. They don't care.
This is also before 9/11, so you could just take things on there. Do you plan on using this, sir?
No, it's disassembled.
This is for your grandfather. He likes to shoot Germans.
Yeah. It's 1969. He likes to shoot the Vietnamese.
Namis. The Vietnamese.
It has to be Namis.
It's like a fantasy race. Like Avatar and the Na'vi. Like the Vietnamese.
So he takes 2 shots at Canadian Club aboard the plane, goes in the bathroom, puts the gun together, because of course he fucking did. Like, nobody stopped him when he grabbed his bag knowing there's a riot. Like, I'm sure they didn't even check. Like,
it was an M1.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
They're like, that thing can't do enough damage. Like, like, wouldn't you hear the clinking of the bullets? Like,
It was around sleepy time.
yeah, everybody's asleep.
The bus was really loud. Didn't have like an actual muffler or anything.
There was a bus on that plane.
That's why they didn't care about the gun. They're like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah. There's like, when they got on a plane, they're like, all right, everybody on the bus. Okay.
So he went into the bathroom, put the gun together, and then he jumps out, points the gun at the stewardess, and goes, "I want to go to New York." Like,
Well, why didn't you just buy a flight to
why
New
did you buy a
York?
ticket to New York? So,
Was this the cheaper one? And the cheaper thing was to buy a fucking rifle that was good. That probably would have cost you the ticket to fucking New York.
hold on, you bust west because you want to go east. So
why is this bus on the plane?
So the plane stopped in Denver to get fuel. Minicello released all the passengers, which I guess is good of him. And then he informed the captive crew that New York was not his destination. He wanted to get back to Italy. So this is him wanting to he was about to face imprisonment, so he flees to Italy this way. I had misread it originally. So,
okay. This makes a lot more sense than
okay, why the fuck are we doing this?
Why are we going to New York?
This is Frizzle and their Magic School Bus, episode 902.
So the taking of the Earth flight.
Wow. So anyway,
You know, kids, usually in a terrorist situation like this.
He wanted to get back to Italy because this is his exact thing. Not because he's from there, but he figured that the country would understand why he would have gone to why the $200 slight would be such a grave affront to his honor.
Just like Julio. Julio understands.
What?
See? You understand?
So,
hey, Ben, keep going.
yeah. So the FBI tried to stop him at John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. So he got to New York, but that's where they were making a second refueling stop. The agents had bulletproof vests and they surrounded the plane. This must have frightened him because he responded to them basically asking him to get off the plane by firing an M1 round into the roof of the fuselage. Those are pressurized cabins, and I'm not getting off this plane.
This flight got a whole lot more dangerous.
Yeah. So the startled agents backed off, and the plane departed on a long journey to Rome. And it had to stop in Bangor, Maine, and then Shannon, Ireland before he did. But he did get back to Rome.
But he did stop in Bangor, Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he avoided capture.
You know what I'm talking about, Julio.
No, Julio likes slumber. Julio doesn't remember the name, but it's like slumber bed of Swedish comfort. Can't remember name very well.
IKEA.
Ah, yes.
So, IKEA. So, anyways, he got to Rome's airport and managed to avoid being captured by taking the officer hostage and stealing the policeman's car. So he got off the plane and went, okay, you come with me, now drive. Like, so, anyways, they managed to track him.
Julio is confused. Are you talking about history or GTA, 7
This is
mission?
very close. Like,
Yeah, we also live in the future after GTA 7 has come out.
He took sanctuary in a rural church, and then police tracked him down there on November 2nd, 1969, so he's only been free for 3 days. And when he was being arrested, he asked countrymen, "Why are you arresting me?"
It's a valid question.
Have you been in that situation before?
Well, Julio had to ask because, $1 million in car than you thought was taxi at the time.
That's fair. You have quite...
It was black car, not white and yellow, so...
You have a very colorful history, Julio.
Yes,
So,
Julio tries.
So, back to our hero here. He was sentenced to 18 months in jail and was out.
Our hero.
Yeah. He was sentenced to 18 months in jail and got out after 14 months. I guess for good behavior.
Well, he doesn't have the gun anymore.
America wanted to try and extradite him to put him into prison there, but Italy refused, and he actually became a national hero in Italy, got married, had some kids, and he still lives there.
What?
Yeah. After 14 months, he got out, and they're all like, good on you!
You didn't go to Cuba!
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about DB Cooper.
We weren't?
No, this is a completely different guy. So, November 24th, 1971. So this is a couple years after Michello there did his thing.
This better have to do with flights, or else I'm going to feel like I just got the worst teased blue balls.
Yeah. So I have absolutely no information on DB Cooper's childhood or the life before him getting on this plane. But he shows up at the airport in Portland, Oregon, in a business suit and has a small paper bag and a briefcase. Pays $20 for a short flight from Seattle to Tacoma. And so all I can think to myself is $20 for a flight. You try and do that now, it's like $300. Easy.
Yeah.
So
wait, DB Cooper that's not the guy that Without a Paddle
no
was about, right? Where they were looking for the guy who was on a plane and he escaped with the money.
This is the guy.
Yeah.
Way to ruin it.
Sorry.
So, anyways, the flight departed on time at 2:50 p.m. And shortly after, he gets Florence Schaefer to come over and hands her a note. And it's just after 3 o'clock. So we've been on the fucking flight for 15 minutes at this point. She walks off and then she doesn't read the note. So then he manages to signal her back over and then quietly and calmly tells her, "You better read that. I have a bomb."
Oh.
So, because of this, Cooper then indicates towards his briefcase to really set the point at home that there's a fucking bomb in here. Which, the fact that he has a briefcase right there is just, now you're supposed to check everything. So, he puts his sunglasses on that he had just taken off, and Florence walks away, reads the note, and then goes up to another flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, and they both read the note and then decide to go and inform Captain William E. Scott in the cockpit. He reads the note, immediately gets into contact with Seattle-Tacoma Air Traffic Control, and this basically brings Gary Tallis, who is an FBI agent, who was stationed at an office nearby, but he comes from Northern California, and he's notified that there is this situation of a hijacking happening. He is fresh out of the academy. Like, I can't imagine this being like my first week on the job, and then, oh fuck. Like,
Note reads, "Hello, FBI. I am not Julio. I would like to go to a different place and millions of dollars. I have bomb in suitcase. P.S. Serious. No, not really. PPS. Really."
I feel like he's literally in the story, and he's just constantly flowing through it.
I told you, I needed Julio.
No, you're right. Sorry, I didn't realize this was the reenactment episode.
He shows up at Northwest Airlines SeaTac headquarters and introduces himself, and the supervisors told Tallis to stay put and wait for reinforcements, which were going to arrive shortly. They had just contacted Northwest Airlines President Donald Nyrup about the hijacker's demands. Basically, the hijacker wanted $200,000 and 4 parachutes in exchange for safe release of all the passengers and many of the flight crew. He would get Northwest's complete cooperation. So they're legitimately just being like, okay, we're just gonna like he's like, I just want $200,000, 4 parachutes. Everybody goes home except for the people who have to fly the plane. So back on the plane, Nyrup had actually no interest in risking the plane exploding from the bomb. So he's just like, we gotta cooperate entirely. Like, let's not get anybody hurt. So back on the plane, Captain Scott sent Florence Schaefer back to Cooper, who was seated near a rear window. Schaefer, not Schaefer. So she sat right next to him in the aisle seat, and Cooper showed her the contents of his briefcase, where he basically showed her entire bomb. She saw wires, a large battery, several red cylinders that looked like an awful lot of dynamite. And so then Cooper told her,
they were technically POG containers.
POG containers.
They were filled with dirt.
So
they're POGs.
No one knew.
I'm back.
It wasn't even the 90s yet. How would anyone know?
I'm back in POG form. So Cooper told Schaefer, tell your pilot to stay in the air until they've got the money and chutes ready in Seattle. So Cooper knew that it was going to take a little while for them to get all the monies together, and he wanted them all in $20 bills. He actually stipulated that the notes of the bills had to have random serial numbers instead of sequential, so they're harder to trace. He's an expert. Like, he's got this down. The FBI honored the request and managed to have all the serial numbers begin with the letter L, signifying that the bills had been issued by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco's office. Nearly every bill was dated to 1969. So they do have some sort of way of tracking these, but it's still going to be very difficult. It was really easy for the FBI to get it all together, but the parachutes are a lot harder. So he was told that the parachutes were coming from McCord Air Force Base in Tacoma, Washington, and Cooper turned them down because military chutes open automatically. He knew that they would open automatically. He used the flight attendant as his go-between and explained that he needed a civilian parachute equipped with user-controlled ripcords so that he could deploy it when he wants to deploy it. So there was a lot of, panicking about this because where are we going to get civilian ones? And the Seattle police got the owner of a local...
Julio believes Walmart? They sell guns. They got to sell parachutes. Makes perfect sense.
Is that where you get your parachutes?
No, Julio doesn't have Walmart. Julio has Rona and Costco. Only if Costco has parachutes on sale, Julio has to be there right there, or all parachutes are gone.
That happens regularly.
Yes.
Okay.
So, the Seattle police got the owner of a local skydiving school on the line and managed to get him to help them out. So, some local guy at a skydiving school gets a phone call from the Seattle police and they're like, we need 4 parachutes. And he's going to be like, okay.
That'd be $200 a parachute.
So, the
why not?
Julio's brother needs to make money.
So,
are you getting... Is this a scam, Julio, where you're getting the police to buy parachutes from your brother?
Shifty eyes. No, of course not.
I love that he narrated.
I was just going to say that.
Shifty eyes again. No, it's not at all. We don't even rent planes covered in black that says stealthy.
So what else happened?
All right, so now they have the parachutes, but they're still wondering why he wanted 2 parachutes, 2 pairs of parachutes instead of just one. They basically knew that he was going to take the crew with him. The FBI had the parachutes and the money, and they passed the word back to Flight 305. And they're still on a holding, they're still in holding at SeaTac. Cooper was informed, and then he gave them permission to land. So he was going to be given a ransom of $200,000 for all of the people aboard this plane, which in today's money is $1.2 million. There's a lot of money.
Julio feels that's not enough. He should have asked for $750,000 more.
Okay.
Fair enough.
$750,000 more.
Yep.
I love that he stopped at $950,000.
You always have to keep them guessing. You also throw it in 99 cents as well, just to screw with them.
Because it looks like a bigger number.
Yes!
Is there tax on this?
You must find the dimes and nickels.
Okay.
This big suitcase full of all these bills and then 99 cents of change on top.
Wow. Oh, that hurt.
Laughing gas. The valve is supposed to be on, right?
So essentially all the money that they had equated out to 21 pounds worth of $20 bills, which all I could think was, holy fuck, it's basically a brick.
I could make a house with that.
Yeah. And so then he was also assured 2 sets of parachutes, meaning 2 backpacks and 2 emergency backup chest packs. So, while this is all going on, flight attendants, the passengers, and the pilot, the airline executives, law enforcement, they're all just basically panicking. Because he still has a bomb aboard the plane.
Yeah.
But all the witnesses state that he remained completely relaxed throughout the whole thing. He was basically just taking drinks and even smoked a cigarette at one point.
It was a glitter bomb. No one knew the difference.
Can I just stop to say, what a time when we could smoke on airplanes.
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, who's going to fucking stop him?
That's fair. That's fair. Just, it was probably normal as opposed to, he has a bomb, just let him do what he wants.
Yeah, so the crew and Florence Schaffner even stated that he was especially polite, respectful, courteous, and even offered to buy one of the flight attendants, pay one of the flight attendants for his drink.
Julio has an Julio has a question. Was he Canadian?
No.
Because that doesn't sound like American. That sounds like Canadian.
I think no. I think he's British. Canada hadn't been formed at this point.
Ah, yes. British people were always like that.
1971.
Yeah. The War of 1912 hadn't happened yet. Duh.
Time goes backwards. So, anyways.
There were several things wrong with that. You only counted one.
Yeah. I'm still trying to process this whole thing. Especially the plain island.
Just a big pile in the ocean.
So, anyways,
it also spins because of the propellers.
It's a mobile island.
Wow! That hurts so much.
He was going to use it to come and conquer the States. There's Cuba, the whole army on an airplane island.
I don't think the Navy would know what to do. What the fuck is that?
Just let them have it.
They're like rushing at you, and the Navy's just like, what the fuck do we do? I don't know, call the Air Force.
They're not Russians, they're Cubans.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry, back to the story. He was very polite.
He was very polite, even offered to pay for his drink, which is insane. He has asked for $200,000 in money, and then like, oh, but by the way, I can afford this drink now.
He gets the money, takes like a 20 out of it, and just goes, yeah, here's for your
20s. Wow.
It's only in 20 so he can buy drinks.
He also paid $20 for the flight. There's a lot of descriptions that were given by the FBI later, who called him a foul-mouthed drunk, and Tina Mucklow actually completely disagreed with this. Quote, he seemed rather nice. He seemed thoughtful. She even reported later that Cooper had insisted that dinner be brought on board for the crew members, that he had kept the plane while landing, so he wanted them to bring food into the plane while they were sitting there waiting for everything to be assembled in Seattle. So the plane's just sitting there, and he's like, you know what, you all seem hungry.
And the best kidnapper award goes to... you, good sir! The bunch of food for all the people that are on the plane.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to thank D.B. Cooper.
Yeah.
And, the flight attendant.
Don't forget about the American government for paying for the food.
I was just about to get there. Thank you.
So, word came from the ground roughly at 3:50 that all of Cooper's demands had been met. So I want you to think, he started this at 3 o'clock. It's now 3:50. It's only been 50 minutes, and they've got all this shit going on. So, the landing was a half hour late, but it was just going too quickly. Cooper told the captain to taxi the jet to a brightly lit location far out on the tarmac. He stipulated that only one person bring the money and the parachutes, and when the lone Northwest Airlines employee stopped the vehicle not far from the 727, Cooper directed stewardess Mucklow to lower the aft stairs. So then he watched closely as she met the employee at the bottom to take the parachute and the cash stored in a bank bag. So, stop the plane, way out there, one guy walking. I would hate to be that guy walking to this thing with this heavy bag of money and a bunch of parachutes and be like, this plane's going to explode.
Oh, I thought it was because it was just really heavy.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. So at 5:30, Cooper opened the delivered money bag and to make sure there was no funny stuff inside, so like a tracking unit or nothing inside of it.
Or a clown nose.
Yeah. Opens it up and it's a glitter bomb.
Surprise!
Oh, you guys got me.
Julio put whipped cream
you guys
pie
got me.
with spring open.
That would be amazing too. It's a spring-loaded pie.
That would be pretty funny.
Until he pushes the detonator. Like,
I don't know. That's still pretty funny to me.
Yeah.
So many people died, but Officer Bumbles sure did a great job.
are you happy now? So, if only it looked under the pie. That's what the money was. So, less than 2.5 hours after hitting the note, he has everything he wants. So, both Mucklow and Schaffner reported that he jumped up and down with joy in almost like a kid-like fashion. So he's like fucking going. Like, woo! Yeah. So, he then had Schaffner hold the bag so she could feel the weight. And Mucklow then joked with Cooper about it being a lot of money and could she have some. So he reached into the bag and gave her a bundle.
What a nice guy. This is a lot. Can I have some? Yeah, sure.
Mucklow then told him that she was just joking and that she couldn't accept gratuities. So in return for having his demands met, he let all of his fellow passengers go, along with 2 of the flight attendants, Florence Schaffner and another woman named Alice Hancock. So he's keeping Mucklow. Hancock turned back when she realized that she'd forgotten her purse and asked Cooper if she could retrieve it, and he was like, sure, I'm not going to bite you. Literally, he said this. She noticed that he was already in the process of putting on the chutes. He refused parachute instructions that I handed him, said Mucklow, saying, I don't need those. He opened one, looked inside, closed it up before putting it on. He put it on easily as if he'd done this 1,000,000 times before.
So, he'd been training...
Yeah.
Probably at the place where they got the parachutes.
Yeah.
Where Julio's brother
Shifty eyes. Julio did not train nobody. We don't do this at all.
So the only people he kept aboard were Tina Mucklow, Captain William Scott, and First Officer William Ratakza, and Flight Engineer H.E. Anderson. Ratakza.
Do you want to try that again? Ratakza.
Ratakzak.
Yeah, Ratakazak.
Yep. So,
go! Ratakazak.
Mucklow asked him at one point if he had a grudge against Northwest, and he said, I don't have a grudge against your airline, miss. I just have a grudge. So...
Oh.
Captain Scott told Cooper that an FAA executive had asked for permission to come onto the plane and explain the penalty for piracy. And Cooper said, tell him to forget it. So...
I already know.
Yeah.
Julio already understands this. This is not boat, this is plane. You cannot be a pirate on a plane. You can only be a pirate on a boat.
We're going to talk about a case at some point of the most recent thing of piracy in North America.
Is it piracy on in the space? Is space pirates are a thing?
Can't have them on a plane. Spaceships.
Sky pirates, no. Space pirates, yes.
This is great. So, like, I just love that they're like, an FAA executive asked for permission to come onto the plane and explain that this is illegal. Like, as if he didn't already know. Like,
Yeah.
Wait.
Can we explain the problems with piracy? No, pass.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I know?
Just so you know, he wants to come on here and tell you that this is illegal. Yeah. Okay. Wait. It's illegal? I could go to jail.
Julio thinks he's time traveler and he's like adventure junkie.
Yeah.
It makes plausible sense because he doesn't care about the authority. He already knows already. He's jumping up and joy like, this is really working. I can't believe it. It's got to be time travel.
And then when he goes back, the money is worth more because they're bills from the past. Plus, they can't track them.
What I love too is that I have a case about a man who shows up in an airport that comes from a country that doesn't exist and insists that this country exists, and then vanishes. And that's going to be a case we do at one point. And it's speculated as a time traveler. Now I'm just convinced that these are the same case.
I'm pretty sure though that one, that was Tommy Wiseau. Because nobody knows where the fuck that guy comes from.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Have you?
I don't.
You know what? We'll talk. About. Oh, we'll talk about that in the overflow.
You know Cousin Tommy? You're not supposed to talk about Cousin Tommy.
This is like Bigfoot and his cousins.
Yeah, but considering the stereotype he's going for, we should expect cousins.
Yes. All right. So, Cooper then set himself to task figuring out how to operate the stairway. He insisted the stairway be left down upon takeoff so he could walk down to jump later. The crew made him realize that the metal stairway scraping and sparking under the fully fueled airliner was a really bad idea. So at first he's like, yeah, we'll just leave that down. And then they're like, yeah, but there's going to be like scrapes and stuff, and there's going to be sparks, and it's jet fuel. So he told the crew, that's all right, Captain can do it after we take off. Which,
he was pretty lenient about that.
Yeah. I love
safety first.
I love how he's so whatever with this. So the cockpit stairs only had a warning light, not a lowering button. So the only way to work the ramp was from the exit door. So you have to be flying and work the ramp. But anyways.
Just like in Liar Liar.
Yes. So
I haven't seen that movie forever. I just had a hint of nostalgia there.
He used the jet cabin's phone to then tell the cockpit crew precisely what he wanted them to do next. He said that the altitude had to be 10,000 feet or less. The wing flaps must be set at a 15-degree angle. And the airspeed must be no more than 150 knots, so 200 miles per hour. With the wheels left down and the cabin pressure off. That way, he would not be shot into the night like a bullet when the stairs were lowered. Because I was just thinking that on like a pressurized cab, so they have to turn the pressure off. Like, they'd have to decompress it beforehand, or else when he opens that fucking door, there it goes. End quote, as Cooper says. And Captain Scott, I'm wearing a wrist altimeter, so I'll know what your altitude is. So, like, don't bullshit me.
It's like he planned everything. Oh my god, this is too good.
Time traveler.
Yeah, okay.
This showed that he's really familiar with everything, except that he wasn't completely familiar with the model of the plane he was on. But he was familiar with what he had to do to jump, so he obviously had to have been an experienced jumper, and it's very possible, according to the FBI, that he was possibly a former paratrooper, just based on how he's doing things. So after the instructions were given, the crew remained in the cockpit for the entire flight. His flight instructions were followed, and then Cooper definitely showed a lot of signs of probably having military experience, so again, probably a former paratrooper. He recently revealed... the co-pilot recently revealed to a publisher that when he told me to set the wings flap at 15 degrees, I knew he was smart. So he obviously knew what he was doing. The knowledge of the exact parachuting dynamics of the 727 were uncanny because in 1971, it was classified information. You couldn't just know this stuff. So the only way of knowing this stuff was if you had been in covert operations in Vietnam or were a Boeing official. So either he works for like a Boeing company.
He was a spy.
He was in Vietnam.
He was a pilot spy.
So do you think the grudge was with the United States?
That's what I'm thinking.
Because like it wasn't even really for the money because he was willing to just give it away.
Yeah. So the skyjacker then told the crew that he didn't care which route they took as long as they went south and ended up in Mexico. So he doesn't care how they get there, just get me to Mexico.
It was you.
Shifty eyes. Julio knows nothing of Cousin Tommy whatsoever.
Cousin
So, Mexico was 2,200 miles away, and Cooper decided that they would make a full stop in Reno, Nevada, to fuel back up. The pilots in the air flight operations wanted to take their special passenger over the Pacific Ocean, which was not it was a non-approved way of going. It was the risky, low and slow approach. So the jet was assigned to the other route, which was an 8-mile wide forestry corridor west of most of the mountain peaks. So he wanted to go down towards, he wanted to go a risky route towards California, and instead they went more directly. So that way it wasn't just low and close to mountaintops. They just stay at a point.
And but he said it didn't matter as long as they went south.
Yeah. So some of Cooper's experts now think that Cooper had this whole plan planned ahead of time again, and even knew the direction that they would be flying. He knew that it was going to be predictable terrain, and that they were going to take this route. So at 7:36 p.m., after 2 hours on the ground in Seattle, the flight takes off. So it's now been about 5 hours since the hijacking began. Cooper ordered Tina Mucklow to join the rest of the crew in the cockpit. Before she closed the curtain that divided the first class from coach, she caught a glimpse of Cooper working on something, quote, tying the lassoed bank bag to his waist. So he's just tying this there.
Yeah.
While adjusting the parachute, he waves goodbye to Tina. And then Tina said that he put the chute on as if he had done it every day. Mucklow knew that the cockpit door did not have a peephole, so they wouldn't be able to see this, and they didn't even have remote cameras or video monitors. There's no way to see what's going on back there.
They could smoke on the plane. They have no cameras. Isn't that 2000, 2001 after 9/11?
Yeah. So at 7:42, Mucklow pulls the door closed behind her. And the last thing she saw Cooper do was begin to dump money into an empty chute container. And then he began cutting cord from the chute and tying it around his waist. Apparently attempt to secure the parachute containers full of money. So he's basically just trying to tie these there because he knows the bag is going to be too heavy and it'll throw him off. So shortly after 8 o'clock, a red light came on the instrument panel for the flight engineer, and before the right inside of them was open door, and everyone knew that the aft stairs were now down, and Cooper had been able to lower himself. Scott clicked on the intercom and asked, "Is there anything we can do for you?" And Cooper answered, everything was okay. That's the last that they ever heard from him. At 8:13, they felt a slight dip in elevation on the jet's nose, a pressure bump. And this was then corrected by the tail. And it's basically an indication that Cooper has now jumped. Captain Scott took note precisely where they were. They were very, very nearly over the Lewis River, and some 25 miles away, 25 miles north of Portland. They all exchanged looks, and then Scott said, "We keep going to Reno no matter what," because they didn't want to be wrong in what had happened and then come out there. They were even advised by Cooper to not come out until they had reached their destination. So 10:15, 2 hours later, they land in Reno. There's a shower of sparks that flew up from the dangling stairwell. I love it because nobody thought about the fact that they're going to have to put this back up.
Yeah.
So the plane sat idle while the crew basically just shit bricks waiting for them to come on, because what if he left the bomb? So finally Scott turned on the intercom and asked if anyone could hear him. He tried a second time. He still got no response. So he carefully opened the cockpit door, and it was completely empty back there. There was nothing, and it's just the wide open rear exit, so where the stairs had gone down. Cooper's gone. He'd been gone for 2 hours. He plunged into the night air, Temperature was about 22 degrees Fahrenheit, so relatively chilly. There's also icy rain that would have hit him as he was falling down. So, like, when he jumped, he was jumping into the cold. Like, they think that, like, FBI said that it would have been a death plunge for most people, but they're not exactly sure what happened. There's been no body ever found. So within hours, Washington state residents near Cooper's suspected jump zone reported hearing someone who was very much alive taking off in a small sputtering plane. So there's reports that he must have jumped off one plane, done the parachute jump, landed, and had a plane waiting for him to, like, get out of there. So essentially they used K9 dogs to try and find everything. The FBI interviewed the crew until 2 a.m. There was a quick press conference. The crew didn't report any significant that we didn't already know. They mostly just spoke up to how calm he was and how he did this expertly, knew everything he was doing. Like, when he jumped into the cold night air, he didn't just, like, take $200,000. He legitimately became, like, a legend. Like, just, he got away with this and there was nothing. So there's a lot of, like, speculation. They only recovered, like, a handful of the bills that must have, like, floated away or something, but nothing ever really came out of it. They did a thorough investigation and trying to apprehend him. He had taken almost everything that he brought on board with him, so his hat, briefcase bomb, the overcoat that he had, one set of parachutes was gone, the cash in a bag, everything's just gone. The only thing that was left behind was a necktie, a pack of Rayleigh filter cigarettes, and a signed gate ticket. So this was examined as much as they possibly could, but there's no DNA evidence at that time. So from there, they go to the next morning. So it's Thanksgiving Day now. So he did this the day before Thanksgiving. So he knew that the airports were going to be bustling. Mm-hmm. So there's a big search party for him. They combed the area at the point where they even had a SR-71 Blackbird spy plane, like, going around quietly trying to find it. They just couldn't find anything. So he, like, an FBI search party, like, with Gary Tallis, who's that rookie agent that was first on the scene. He goes into a room in the cross-section of law enforcement personnel, and basically they all have a discussion based on what they think has happened now. They have a map, and there's a lot of speculation on whether or not he's dead, but then they can't find a body. So Tallis describes the area that he fell into as it was really stormy weather, a lot of cloud cover, fog, and I remember flying through clouds and then coming out and here's mountains right here. So, like, it's just wilderness. And it would have been very hard for that plane that people were saying they heard to get out of there. He would have had to be, again, an expert flyer or have an expert pilot. So
I think that's why he wanted the
civilian parachute.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it's an automatic, they're not going to be able to.
You just drop straight down in your poof and you're just like, I am stuck here, flying in the wind.
Yeah, exactly.
So Tallis actually didn't agree with a lot of the people that were saying that he didn't survive. Quote, my first impression was that we would have found his chute. We find him with a broken leg. I never thought he had a problem leaving the airplane. In fact, I volunteered to jump out of a 727. You know, the injury comes when you impact the earth. I really never even considered the fact that he could have walked out or have been picked up. The areas we searched didn't have roads. So he would have had to plan this down to the exact place he knew he was going to be hopping out. Tallis is surprised at how sure the others were that he couldn't possibly have survived. At least for a couple weeks. There was no trace of him, or his bright yellow, red, and parachutes. Nothing ever turned up at all. Childs eventually chose to agree with them, mostly in parts to the fact that they just couldn't come up with an explanation. He did speculate that he had been injured when he hit the ground, buried the parachute, and then unable to get out of the wilderness with no roads, wound up, and his bones were scattered all over the world by scavenging birds and whatever animals came about. But in all honesty, I'm just going to go on a limb. I don't think that's what happened. I think that he had this planned out very, very well.
Mm-hmm. It was very meticulous.
There's absolutely no way that he just died and, like...
You spin a few times and you tumble, but you're gonna not, like, damage your legs. And depending on flat area, you can, jumper plane, start it and go.
Not to mention, I feel like his grudge probably wasn't over. Like, that's just one part of his whole thing. I'm sure he did so much more that we never knew about.
It seems that his activities weren't completely down if we believe this next part. December 1971, which is a week after the hijacking, 4 letters, all signed by D.B. Cooper, were mailed to newspapers. The first and fourth envelopes were delivered to Reno, Nevada, and one was delivered to a Vancouver, British Columbia daily paper, and the other one was to a paper in Portland, Oregon. Each letter made a point of ridiculing the authorities conducting the search, with 3 carefully composed from words cut out from papers and magazines pasted onto a sheet of paper. The authorities examined them, and they apparently did not notice any possible hint of who the sender was. So again, this is super meticulous. Like, the Vancouver and Portland envelopes were rubber stamped in those towns, so respectively, so he would have been in those towns. And meaning the writer was very likely traveling to those areas, but the first and last envelopes were both sent to Reno from Northern California. So, like, Northern California and Portland and Vancouver are all within traveling distance. Reno would have been a little bit further out. So I think that's why they would have been sent from Northern California. I think he got away and he managed to...
One very long train ride.
Yeah. So, these letters never led to his capture, and neither did a young boy's 1980s discovery of a rotting package full of $20 bills, $5,800 in all, that matched the ransom money serial numbers. So this kid finds these bills in 1980. So, like, 10 years later. Like, there's still no leads to it.
It was only 5,000?
Only 5,800.
I wonder if the rest of it was... the money was put towards whatever scheme he was going for. And he had more schemes that nobody realized were his.
Yeah. So the FBI finally closed the investigation July 8th, 2016. Like, that long to close this investigation. There are a lot of suspects. The main suspect is Robert Rackstraw. He was a Special Forces paratrooper, an explosive expert, and a pilot/con man who lived under about 22 different aliases and is now 73-year-old now and would be 76 years old, and he supposedly lives in San Diego. But he was eliminated by the FBI in 1979, but there's a lot of investigators and stuff like that who still think that he's got to be it.
Like, eliminated?
No, just, we don't think it's him.
Oh, okay.
But Robert Wesley Rackstraw was born in Ohio in 1943. He grew up in a divorced family. He moved into a secluded area in Santa Cruz Mountains in San Jose, California when he was a young boy. And he was interested in airplanes, like a lot of airplanes. So his family took a lot of trips to Arizona. This is where he met his uncle, who was a skydiver. And he's a former special ops paratrooper. So Robert basically followed him around the entire trip, heard all about the skydiving, and he was just completely hooked on this. And that's what made him become paratrooper in the Special Forces later, and kept him into doing skydives. So, the crazy thing about it is that his uncle's name is Ed Cooper. So...
I don't get what you're trying to say.
Yeah, not at all.
Uncle Cooper did something wrong to my bum, and I wanted to shame his name, and hopefully he was going to be arrested. Didn't go out so well.
That went dark.
Yeah, especially because he tried to shame his name and got him pretty much famous.
So, Robert was also quite a charmer. So again, this whole thing of like how calm he was in this whole thing and how he even charmed it. He got a couple girls pregnant in high school, and his sister Linda Lee later stated that he lied to girls a lot. He wouldn't tell one that he was dating another. He didn't seem concerned if he hurt anybody.
His charisma status is level 20.
Very few of our audience members will get that.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy.
So his sister stated that he had no moral compass, which that doesn't sound like D.B. Cooper entirely. Like,
no, he seemed pretty like almost like those gentleman thieves you see in the movies where it's like, I am a thief, but I have an honor code.
Yeah.
For some reason, this is kind of like the fish's voice, but not the fish's voice. It's not Bernard's voice either. This is D.B. Cooper now, bitch.
I'm going to put that on the book box.
No, the book shelf.
All right, so he marries Gail Marks and has... and they have 3 kids together. In 1964, at 21 years old, he joined the California National Guard and became an advanced level, got trained in advanced level military techniques, such as halo, high altitude, low opening, parachute jumping.
I didn't know they had that game back then.
Yeah, totally. So...
Combat before Evolve.
Yeah.
Pre-Evolve combat.
Yeah.
So, in January 1967, he's now a corporal, and he's in the U.S. Army Reserve. He's transferred to Georgia. He attends another 4 weeks of infantry jump school, and then another 8-week class in demolition in North Carolina.
All this jump school. Where is the fall school and the parachute school? You keep jumping, you don't fall.
I would love if that was a real thing.
It's like double jumping in video games.
Don't worry about it. I went to jump school. Okay, but did you go to...
It's for all the white people that can't jump. Blacks don't need it. They need the school because they always can jump so high.
Wow. Okay.
And we got rid of 60% of our racist jokes.
Yeah.
And then we just got 40% of them back.
I know. So
you only got 60. I can bring out the other 20 and 40% if you need it. We got 100% more racist jokes than
No, I can't because I get blamed for it.
That's more of a reason to bring it back.
So, anyways, he's trained by the Navy Reserve in scuba, underwater demolition, and weapons practice, and then he gets divorced in 1968. She would claim spousal abuse in the divorce request. She then quickly changes her mind and remains married to him, which is weird. Rackstraw then graduated from flight school, and he learned to fly helicopters, and then he left to fight in Vietnam. So again, this whole thing of 727 things only being for covert ops in Vietnam really starts to come together.
Did they ever explain? Did they ever explain what the DB stood for?
No. It's funny because he did introduce himself as Dan at some point. So
Julio believes it's called Deep Balls.
Deep Balls Cooper.
Yeah, Deep Balls Cooper.
That sounds like a prison name. Don't worry, you're gonna get a visit from Deep Balls Cooper. Why do they call him Deep Balls? Why do you think? He's really good at basketball.
He knows how to jump very high. He's mastered the triple jump, too.
He went to jump school.
Took advanced jumping techniques. So, he would do a lot of aerial missions with the army. And then eventually it was uncovered that he had authorship of 2 teenage pregnancies and an early drunk driving arrest kind of thing. And these all came out in the divorce records originally. But he just kept fighting in the war at the time. And he lost all his clearance, though. So he basically went from being a very special ops, covert person, an integral part of this, and now he's lost his clearance, so he can't do this, but he's still wanting to fight. So I think that might be part of it, is the grudge, if this is him. So he ends up getting back and basically just becomes a complete con man. He was beating his kids and insisted that his wife and kids be taken to his residence when military guards personally stood between him and his wife. So he was beating her and the kids, and then military police had to show up and be like, you can't do this. We're going to take them somewhere safe. And he's like, no, you take them right back inside. Like,
Jesus.
He had been choking his wife at one point. It triggered a discreet army investigation that would go on for weeks. He was then stripped from his post at the Army Aviation. So Gail came to terms with the end of her marriage, and she went as far away from him as she possibly could. And then about 5 months later, D.B. Cooper hijacks a plane. So,
honestly, it's weird, though. Like, it just, personality-wise, they don't sound like the same person. Like, that guy there sounds like he would, when doing this, if he were doing the thing, he would almost be a lot more irrational and less meticulous.
Julio thinks he has plans after plans after plans. He didn't expect to make it with the money and the plane and across the border, and more likely to maybe small helicopter rather than plane. But his jumping up and down to Julio makes sense of they are just not willing to push the we will shoot you and kill you. They really thought that they would catch him like with the landing of the plane, and they didn't. So
right, my point more being his reaction to things, right? If he was more this angry person, the minute they said something like, "Hey, we gotta fly with the stairs up, or we could ignite things," that type of thing with that type of personality would probably be like, "No, you fucking do the way I said," because he wants things to be the way he needs them. But he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense," and he was very lenient and very capable and understanding, where this guy does not sound that.
Well, in 1978, Robert Rackstraw here is arrested on charges of murdering his stepfather, and he was acquitted for this. And then in 1979, he gets charges of aircraft theft, possession of explosives, and a check fraud. He spent more than a year in jail for that. So, to me, I'm kind of with you on that. First of all, he got $200,000 in 1971 number of money. Like, to have blown all of that, even with $5,800 missing of it, I can't see why he would have had to go and do check fraud. Like, he had a lot of money. And also, that being charged with murdering his stepfather kind of thing, that shows his explosiveness. Like, he's just, like, exactly like you said, he's not cool, calm, and collected like this other guy was.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he'd be able to pull that off without being frustratingly irrational. Oh my god, is that thunder and lightning up there? Oh, okay. I might have to close that window in a bit, but yeah, that definitely not that guy. And you're right, like, why would he have spent all that money if he had it, only to use check fraud later?
So one of the other suspects that comes up very recently was Walter Recca, who in 1971 was actually witnessed hanging out at a bar at the Portland airport the day before the hijacking. So, there was an 84-year-old Floridian named Carl Lauren who released a book, and it was called D.B. Cooper and Me, A Criminal, a Spy, My Best Friend. And it basically tries to point the finger towards Recca being the hijacker. He said that he had that Recca was a lifelong covert operative with the CIA, and possibly even had links to the KGB and the Mossad. So he would have had thorough training as well if he was linked to all these secret organizations. He was actually in the Michigan Air Guard and so on, but Recca died at the age of 80 in 2014. That's when this book got released, not too long after that. So Recca, he was told, it said in the book that Recca was tough as nails and had a lot of this fearless and very skilled demeanor, and that basically made it so that he could actually be it actually points towards him a little bit because of the fact that he was reported to be really calm. However, they're still not entirely certain it's him, just based on timeline wise, even though he was in the airport the day before. Yeah. This book is the only thing that really links him there, and that eyewitness saying that he was there. There's nothing really concrete to put him there.
Julio always finds it funny that all white people always sound the same and always seem to be the same.
What?
Thank you. I feel like I'm less ugly now.
Okay. So anyways.
Because all white people look the same.
So anyways, that's D.B. Cooper. Still no real suspect. Recently there's been a couple breaks in the case trying to use DNA evidence and so on. But again, if this guy's not already in a system, it's really hard. Even though you have the DNA, it's really hard to link you.
Mm.
That's why they had such a hard time tracking down the Golden State Killer, right? So
now, as I mentioned earlier and accidentally kind of spoiled some stuff, that this is kind of the plot behind Without a Paddle, the movie with Seth Green, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and
Matthew Lillard. I think that's what his name is.
Yeah, it is. I just like calling him Shaggy because Shaggy. He became after that movie. He was the voice of Shaggy for everything afterwards.
That's true.
Yeah, he became like Mike Myers in Shrek. That was his
gorgeous
career.
Husband of Christian Bell.
And the gorgeous husband of Christian Bell. Yes. So anyway, yeah. But the fact that they were going down the river and everything was because they were trying to find the spot where D.B. Cooper had passed away. And obviously in their movie, Cooper had hidden himself in a weird underground burrow, if I remember correctly. And that's why nobody found him, is because he wasn't.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, the movie also plays with the history that he still had all the money, where clearly the money was found several years later with still $5,800 left.
Yeah. And they ended up finding, it says here, they ended up finding $100,000 of it or something like that in the movie.
Oh, only $100,000?
Yeah. That's the non-burnt money, because apparently Cooper tried to burn the money. And they even found his remains and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
He saw the movie Cliffhanger and thought it was a good idea.
Okay.
Is that the one with fucking Robin there?
No, it has Dick Solomon in it, though. He's a great actor.
Great actor. Dick Solomon. That honestly sounds like a porn name.
Who's from the show Third Rock from the Sun? He was alien.
Fair enough. No, I get it. But it does sound like a porn name.
I guess you think Richard is, porn acceptable.
Very much so. You should really check out more porns, Julio. Porn!
Well, it's funny because there's actually going to be in Loki, the new Disney Plus miniseries or whatever. There's actually I'd seen this trailer. I don't know why I didn't put that in here, but Loki is actually seen taking the disguise of DB Cooper before jumping from the Boeing and disappearing into the Bifrost.
Oh, that's really cool. So the idea is that Loki was DB Cooper and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, that's actually a really neat concept.
Damn Marvel messing with the timeline. Can never do it right. Only DC.
Also, in the Kid Rock song, Ba Witta Da Ba. I got lost there for a second.
With a bang bang.
Ba.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah. It contains references to Cooper's stolen money, so I'm guessing he's rapping about whatever. But
So that was honestly a really cool episode. Unfortunately, I guess I knew more than I usually did, and I was the one who spoiled the thing.
Oh well.
I feel
Shifty Eyes, he's a Time Lord. We don't know anything.
Except that they have two hearts. Duh. What?
I hate Whovians.
Who?
Yeah.
Vian?
I need a doctor.
I have Dr. House. He's a good doctor. His sarcasm is excellent.
I'm sorry, Doctor Who?
House.
Oh, okay. And scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, great job, guys.
All right, we can all go home.
All right. Well, that was our episode. That was fun. Thank you for coming along, Julio, for the ride.
Come along. Julio was driving the whole entire time. Bus with plane.
All right. I thought we were walking on the beach, and when I turned around, I saw 3 tire marks of a plane.
The propellers keep making us go all the way around the floor.
All I can picture is this island of planes being driven around, and there's just this bus on it.
Yeah. Magical school bus. This prison loves scuba.
The Cuban plane island. It is only controlled by the bus.
Yeah.
Julio drives the bus of the Cuban space.
Wow.
All right, so that's our show. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, the usual jazz. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BA Chaos Jar. You can follow us on Facebook at Chaos Jar Podcast, which is also the name of our YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitter at I'm Glad You Asked _ Ask me questions. And lastly, you can become a patron at patreon.com/chaosjar. That is our show, and everyone, have a good night.
If you want Julio to come back, you must comment! Comments! Julio says goodbye! And also, Julio understands.